That's why he shouldn't miss that. All that experience. So, guys, can we take to our seats? Can we take to our seats? We are going to finish now. Are the highlights on YouTube for that US versus France? Because I couldn't find it. Yeah. Oh. The ones that I managed to see were all these PlayStation stuff. I was like,
Now, some people get creative. Like some guys just sit there and hold the controller while they stream live, so that the YouTube thing doesn't detect that they're copywriting the whole thing.
yay.
But I think if you look,
Wow.
I don't know how long the highlights are on the USA men's, like the actual team websites. They've been posting clips.
All right, guys. So let's begin. So, like I said, the last thing that we want to do today is question 3.3. And if we go to question 3.3, under the required, it says, prepare a statement showing unit sales, variable costs, and the profit contribution, including these values as a percentage of sales. Okay? That's the first thing that they want. Then the second bit, they say, calculate the sales required of each product to generate a total contribution of 4,687,500 per annum. Per annum. What do you think? Do you think you get 4 millions? Ooh, 4 millions, thank you. 687,500. All right, thank you, Thomas, for that. Okay, then up top, what are they saying? You are provided with the following information. You've got sales, manufacturing overheads, then you've got your gross profit, then non-manufacturing overheads, net profit, and then the sales units per product. Okay? Then it says fixed manufacturing overheads are absorbed at a rate of 375 per unit. Okay. Non-manufacturing overheads include costs which vary with activity at a rate of 12.5% of the sales value. Right. Anything else they've given us? No. Okay. So let's get into this. The first thing that they asked us for under required is to prepare a statement that shows the selling price per unit. Okay. And then obviously your variable costs, and then obviously your profit contribution as well. Okay. So we quickly look and see, okay, what are the inputs that they've given us? And there we then draft our, or put together our table. All right, so we can zoom in there. And obviously to get your selling price per unit, we simply say what? How do we get our selling price per unit? How do we get our selling price per unit? I've done the first one for you, but how did we actually get it? What was our total sales for A? So that's total sales. And then to get the selling price per unit, what must we do? Yes, we divide by what? Yeah, unit sales or sales units, okay? And our sales units are how many? Or how much? How many units did we sell of A? 500. Okay, and that gives us what? 1.56. Okay, so that's how we're getting this here. Okay, then let's do the same for the others. Let's open this up. 1 point, is it just 1.7? And then for C, why isn't this? $1.25. Okay, all right. So we've gotten that done and dusted. Then we have to go over to your manufacturing variable overhead. Okay. Remember, they've given us the manufacturing overheads. Now, your manufacturing overheads, if they tell us fixed manufacturing overheads are absorbed at a rate of 37.5 cents per unit. If they tell you fixed over manufacturing overheads, right? That means that you also then likely have a variable portion there as well. Does that make sense? So what we then now need to do is we need to take that manufacturing overhead and we then now need to say, okay, that manufacturing overhead, which is 1,552,500 for product A, divided by the total number of units, which we said is 1,437,500, okay, which will then give us what? 1.8. So in other words, your manufacturing overhead per unit is 1 rand and 8 cents, okay? But remember they told us that there is a fixed manufacturing overhead that's absorbed at 0.375 cents. So what must we do with that? Remember, I'm saying that this then obviously comprises of variable and fixed, isn't it? When calculating contribution, do we want to include the fixed? So what must we do? We must remove it. Yes, we must remove it. So how do we remove? Because does this not include fixed and variable? Because we took the total, isn't it? So we must remove. How do we remove? Are we going to multiply? Not necessarily. Remember, okay, remember this is per unit, isn't it? It's 1 rand 8 cents per unit, isn't it? So already it's in per unit. And they told us the fixed portion is absorbed at 0.375 per unit. So to get our variable only, to remove, what must we do? We know it's not multiply. We've already spoken on that one. Yes, we minus. Is that what you said? Okay. It's where you are heading. Yeah, I believe in you. I think so too. I think so too. Okay, minus 0.375 to get the variable portion only. Okay, I think in your textbooks they did it to 2 decimal place. So I think they only have 0.70, if I'm not mistaken. Do you want to just check there quickly? Zero 0.7? 0.7? Okay, so they're getting exactly what we have. Okay. No, that's fine then. That's fine then. Okay, so we have that. Oh, but we need to do that for all the others as well. So here, what am I putting, guys? Read out the numbers to me. 3575 triple. Okay. Divided by how many units did we sell there or produce? 2.75 million. Okay. And then we do the exact same thing. We then have to minus the fixed portion, 0.375. Okay. Copy and paste. So that's for B. Then we come to C. Two 950. Is that correct? Do you have the right numbers there? Okay, so we now have our manufacturing variable overhead. Variable overhead. Okay, then we can move on to the next thing that we have there. We have our non-manufacturing overhead. Include costs with which vary with activity. The moment you say which vary with activity at a rate of 12.5%, you already know this is then variable. Does that make sense? Because we know that variable costs vary with your output, all right, or your level of production, okay? So here they say 12.5 of your sales, okay? So we then obviously just quickly come here and we say, what was our sales for? A, 2,242,500, okay? Times the 0.125, okay? But then this is the total variable, non-manufacturing variable overhead, right? The total. We want the per unit, okay? So what do we need to do here? 100%, all right? So divided by 1,437,500. Okay, I know what I need to do here. There we go, right? Okay, so now we have all the necessary information for A, right? And then we obviously need to do the same thing for B and C. Okay, so total sales there was 4,675,000. Yeah. I need another zero there. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Cool. Okay. And how many units did we have there? How many units did we produce with B? 2,750. 3 zeros. Thank you, sir. Okay. Okay, there we go. And the last one. Oops. Divided by okay. And then obviously we need to work out the relevant percentages. Okay? And these percentages are based on sales. Okay? So we're saying how much of our manufacturing variable overhead, what portion of our sales is that? So in other words, that's 0.705 divided by 1 rand 56. What do we get? Somebody tell me. I don't know if they would ask this in a test or exam. 38.5. 353. Okay. And then the contribution? What is the contribution? Come, guys. Do you have class after this? Yeah. Ish. I fear for that lecture, eh? If you guys are like this now. What is it? What module? Business. Ah, okay. It's just theory. 0. Is it 0.56? Okay. No, but this is a percentage, isn't it? 48.96. 48.96. 7, sorry. If you want to double check, you can just take 100 and minus it from the 2 overheads, just to double check. 38.53, then minus 12.50, and we're getting the same thing. Okay, so happiness day. I left the others because, yeah, I'm sure you guys know how to proportion. So yeah, that was just to show you how we then calculate the rest of it. So now that we have our table complete, remember, that's just the first bit. All right? Prepare a statement showing unit sales, variable costs, and profit contributions, including these values as a percentage of sales. Okay? So you've done the first part. Everybody happy there? Right. Then the next bit, part B. It was the difference between, you take your sales, 1 rand 56, and you minus those 2 variable costs. So these 2 here. The 46, which 46 are you talking about? This 48 here. This you say, there's one of 2 ways you can calculate it. The 0.66 divided by the 1 rand 56 times 100. Or you can just say, look, I know that my contribution should be the difference between my sales and then my manufacturing overhead. So from a percentage standpoint, you can just say 100% minus the 38.53 minus the 12.5, and then you should get the same 48.97. So you can calculate it one of 2 ways. Yes. Yes, that's the other way. Okay, depends on what you have, but yeah. All right, so that's the first bit. Then we go to the second bit. All right. The second bit, remember they've asked us there, calculate the sales required of each product to generate a total contribution of 4,687,500. Did I get it correct this time, Thomas? Yes. All right. Okay. Super. So here they gave us the unit sales. Basically, we're doing what we did in 3.2, right? We're using the average contribution to find out how many units we must produce in order to get that contribution. Okay? So they've given us the sales already. We know how much units we sold for each. The product mix, how are we getting the product mix? How are we getting the product mix?
So it's a fraction of the total sales.
It's a fraction of the total sales, okay? So we say, maybe just to show you at least, first one, we're saying 1,437,500 divided by our total sales of 7,137,500. And if we calculate that, what do you get? Should give you this here. So your sales mix is always the number of units you sold of a specific product divided by the total number of sales. Remember, it's a sales mix. We're saying how much units of A did we sell of our total sales? How much of B did we sell of our total sales? How much of C, D, and you can go on and on and on. Does it make sense? Okay. So you must understand it from a theoretical, then you don't have to cram these exercises or cram how to get your sales mix. Everybody happy with that? With the sales mix? Okay. Then we go on to the unit contribution. This we have also already calculated. We calculated this in the first part of the question, in A. Okay, so it's a copy and paste job from here. So there you can see the 0.66, the 0.5625, and obviously the 0.6688. Okay, copy and paste. So now total contributions. We then obviously are simply taking your unit contribution times your total sales units to get your total contribution. Okay? Yes. To get your total contribution, that which you see in purple, we said our contribution per unit times the total number of units that we sold. So in other words, that 1,437,500 times the 0.66 will give us that 948,750 in purple there for A. Okay, then obviously your sales revenue, that's your sales times your selling price per unit. Or in fact, they gave us that. That information is in the table actually. So you don't even need to calculate, just copy and paste. But I don't know why they actually gave us that. We didn't use that. We're not going to use that, I think. Okay. Oh, actually we do use it. No, we don't. So now to get our average contribution per unit, okay, average contribution per unit, we take our total units sold divided by your, sorry, no, I'm saying this the other way around. We take our total contribution divided by our total units sold to get our average contribution per unit, okay, which is this 0.62607. So that is our average contribution per unit, regardless of whether it's A, B, or C. This is why we first need to get your average contribution, because our average contribution is incorporating all our different products. Does that make sense? All right. So then when we have that, we know to get now our break even or to get the number of units that we must produce across all our products, we have to say the contribution we wish to realize. We know that if we are looking for the actual break even, we would have said fixed cost divided by your average contribution per unit. But here we want to know how many units must we produce in order to get the contribution of 4,687,500 per annum. So we divide that and we realize that it is 7,487,182 units. Okay, so that's the number of units we must produce. But is that what the question asked us? It says calculate the sales required of each product. So in other words, it doesn't want to just know how many units we must have as output, but we want to know specifically how many of that 7 million must be for product A, how much must be for product B, and how much for product C. So remember an assumption that we made, which we were discussing a bit with the disadvantage. We said that when it comes to cost, volume, profit analysis, we assume that the product mix is what? Is constant. All right? So that means that this 7,487,000 units must be split across the products in that same sales mix that we have established already. Does that make sense? Okay? So we're going to take this 7 million and we are going to apportion it in that fashion. Okay? So here, to calculate A, we're basically then saying what? Here, remember, we have our sales mix already. So you literally are taking that and you're timesing it by that 7 million that we calculated in terms of units. So, oh, nah, for some reason, let's do this on our calculators, because when I do it by the PCA, it's doing it in the, I don't know if it's thousands or 10,000s, one of the two. But yeah, if you pass that calculation in your calculator, you will get the correct amount. It's coming from your total number of units that need to be sold to cover that contribution we want. Yeah. So, how many units for A? 500, only 507,000. Or 1 million. 507. 9, 1.
Oh, 919, so it's a fraction. You can't round down.
You're getting?
So the fraction is 0.45 that I got.
Yes.
You can't round down. You can't sell.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah, actually you're right. Actually you're right, because this is units. So typically, I don't know what they put in the back of your textbook, but this is, practically speaking, this is the correct answer. Even theoretically speaking, this is the right answer. Because remember, we cannot round down when it comes to units. We can't give 0.45 of a unit. We're going to have a very dissatisfied customer or unsatisfied customer. Right, so the second one, how many units? There, you've got your sales mix. Calculate, guys, calculate, let's calculate.
So it's
2 million?
884,000.
884,000. Next one is 812.
No, No, so the last three digits after that 884.
Okay.
812.
812. Okay. All right. Last one. Is everybody understanding how we're getting this? Everybody. What is the answer? What is the answer? 3,094,000. Alrighty, 453. Okay. So if you add those together, I don't know if you're gonna get that same amount since we're rounding up. Might change, okay? But that's the number of units they said we must produce. And then obviously if you want the rand value of how much your sales revenue should be in order to meet that contribution of 4,687,500, then you know, okay, this is how much we must make in sales. Because we obviously need to accommodate for our variable manufacturing overhead and our non-manufacturing variable overhead. Okay? Right. Any questions? Any thoughts? Okay. So when approaching a question like this, and you'll see you're probably going to utilize this approach throughout the module, is you need to understand what you need to do from the get-go. And then nicely lay out your work to say, okay, but then how do I get the average contribution per unit? How do I get the total contribution so that I can calculate the average contribution and so forth? How do I then get the what's called this number of units I then need to produce in order to cover that contribution or cover that fixed cost, because they can ask it for the fixed cost, for example, or break even, should I say. I saw a hand, yes? The rounding. Right. Yes. Oh, but you see, the reason why that is the case is because that total is without rounding. Because remember, we just copied and pasted from there. See. Mm, oh, I see what you're saying. I just multiply it. But I think the marker will accommodate for those differences. And write on your paper to say we round it up because we cannot obviously sell half a unit or point something of a unit, so that the marker can see that. And then obviously give you the mark on principle, because if we look at the back of our textbooks, what does it say? I'm sure they didn't necessarily do the rounding, if I'm not mistaken. What did they say at the back of our textbooks? It's 3.3. There's no 3.3 alpha. No, but don't they give an amount? What amount do they give? They stick with it. So they don't. They basically are rounding down. Okay. They are basically rounding. So they're sticking to the mathematical rather than the principle. Okay. So take note of that. Okay. Because either way that you answer it, you then should get your marks. Because in the back of the textbook, they're doing it this way. Mathematically, they're just focusing on it mathematically. And then obviously from a principle, from a finance perspective, as was mentioned, we can't have point anything of a product. It has to be a full unit. Okay. But anyway, I think we've labored the point. So we can end